Right now, in subtle moments you likely overlook, women are evaluating your value long before you ever decide to make a move. It happens during the quiet pauses in conversation, the way you enter a room, and how you hold your posture when no one is actively watching you. Most men move through their social lives completely oblivious to these subtle assessments, operating under the mistaken belief that attraction is built through outward performance, clever lines, or overt displays of status. You work hard to say the right things, yet you frequently miss the quiet, invisible switch. Mature women look for that, instantly separates a man who is performing from a man who is genuinely high value. When you lack awareness of this underlying dynamic, even your best efforts can feel strangely hollow or completely unrewarded. On this channel, we look closely at female behavior from the inside, stripping away the noise to expose how modern attraction actually operates in real-life settings. I'm going to show you the 3 precise psychological steps to activate female attraction naturally, giving you the clarity to read her subtle green lights effortlessly without ever overthinking your presence again. Most men enter a room trying to prove their worth. A high-value man enters, assuming the room is already calibrated to his presence. There is a deep psychological principle at play here known as frame retention, which describes an individual's subconscious ability to remain firmly grounded in their own internal state, regardless of external social pressures. When a woman interacts with you, her subconscious mind immediately measures whether you are reacting to her or whether she is adjusting to your established field of stability. When you constantly adjust your posture, rush your answers, or laugh nervously at mild jokes, you send an immediate psychological signal that your internal state is fragile and dependent on outside approval. Behavioral researchers have repeatedly observed that high-status individuals naturally exhibit physical stillness, deliberate movements, and a slower rate of speech because they feel no urgency to defend their position in the room. You might wonder if simply standing still and speaking slowly makes a man appear distant or emotionally unapproachable. Of course, context always matters here. True frame retention is not cold indifference or arrogance. It is the quiet comfort of being entirely at ease inside your own skin. Imagine sitting across from a woman at a quiet lounge table while she shares a story about her hectic work week. A man who lacks frame will lean forward excessively, nod rapidly at every single phrase, and break his own train of thought just to agree with her opinions. A man with an established frame sits back comfortably with his shoulders dropped, listening with steady focus while maintaining an unhurried, warm physical posture. She feels your presence without feeling managed. That is the quiet foundation of real attraction. Think back to a conversation that once seemed completely ordinary, one where you walked away wondering why the initial energy suddenly fizzled out. You likely did nothing wrong on the surface, yet the subtle dynamic shifted the moment you tried too hard to keep the conversational momentum going. When you constantly try to keep an interaction exciting, you inadvertently communicate that your unadorned presence is not enough to maintain her interest. Women process this behavior rapidly, recognizing it as a subtle form of performance designed to secure validation rather than share genuine connection. Now, you might be thinking, shouldn't a man show effort and enthusiastic interest when he genuinely likes a woman? The key distinction lies in the origin of that effort. Showing thoughtful attention is inviting, but forcing engagement out of anxiety immediately destroys emotional polarity. One single moment of trying to impress her means very little, but a continuous pattern of people-pleasing creates social fatigue. When you stop striving to prove your value, she finally has the space to experience your actual presence. Once your internal frame is secure, the next step requires turning that internal authority into external emotional tension. Seduction does not happen during conversation. It happens in the pregnant pauses between your words. This is where many men feel an overwhelming urge to fill every silence, mistakenly believing that quiet moments signify failure or awkwardness. In biological psychology, attraction is fueled by a dynamic known as emotional polarity, the subtle tension created between two distinct, grounded energies. When you allow a silence to hang comfortably without rushing to fix it, you create a brief psychological vacuum. In that space, her mind naturally begins to focus on you, processing your composure and filling the quiet with her own emotional investment. This subtle process requires what cognitive researchers refer to as strategic presence, where a man remains fully attentive while deliberately keeping his emotional validation slightly out of immediate reach. Consider a setting where the dialogue flows naturally, and she finishes telling you a personal story. Instead of instantly jumping in with your own long story or asking another rapid question, you hold her gaze for 2 extra seconds, letting a warm, subtle smile form before you respond. You are not ignoring her. You are allowing the depth of the moment to breathe before moving forward. She feels the subtle weight of your stillness. You might be asking yourself if holding eye contact like this could potentially make her feel uncomfortable or overly exposed. That is a completely fair question, because intense eye contact without emotional warmth can easily feel confrontational or aggressive. The difference lies entirely in your internal tension. If your face is relaxed and your posture is open, that pause feels deeply intimate rather than intimidating. When you maintain a lower voice tonality at the end of your sentences rather than letting your pitch rise like a question, you signal absolute comfort with the tension in the room. Many men make the mistake of attempting to create this tension through artificial games, cold shoulder tactics, or scripted line delays. They pull away abruptly or act disinterested, hoping that playing hard to get will somehow manufacture real attraction. Mature women see through these artificial games almost immediately, recognizing them as nervous strategies employed by men who secretly lack true confidence. When you rely on manufactured distance, you break the authentic connection and replace mystery with unnecessary friction. Remember what I told you at the start, that there was one signal most men not only miss, but actively misread. We are getting close to it now, sitting right at the heart of how women display attraction when the tension buildup becomes real. Authentic tension is never about emotional manipulation. It is simply the natural result of holding your own ground while offering genuine, calibrated warmth. It creates an undeniable atmosphere where subtle, nonverbal signals begin to surface naturally. Creating tension is useless unless you know the exact microsignals that tell you she is ready for escalation. When a woman wants you to step closer, she rarely tells you with words. She shifts her geometry. This behavioral shift is rooted in evolutionary psychology, where explicit verbal declarations of interest carry social risk, prompting women to rely on subconscious physiological adjustments to communicate comfort and invitation. These microsignals act as a psychological safety net, allowing her to test your awareness and confidence without having to state her desire outright. If you miss these quiet cues, you inadvertently signal a lack of social intuition, causing her to step back out of caution. Psychologists often refer to this fundamental dynamic as proximity seeking, which is the subconscious drive to reduce physical space towards someone who holds emotional or romantic value. It reveals itself in remarkably specific details that most men completely breeze past during normal interactions. For instance, she might gently adjust her seating position so her knees angle directly toward your torso, or she might place her drink down slightly closer to your side of the table. You might notice her spinning a ring on her finger slowly while maintaining steady eye contact, not fidgeting nervously, but repeating the motion with a calm, deliberate rhythm that matches the pace of your conversation. These quiet spatial adjustments are her unspoken invitation. You might assume that if a woman is interested, she will make it overwhelmingly obvious by touching your arm or laughing loudly at every joke you make. Sometimes that happens, but mature, high-value women express interest with far more subtlety and elegance. She might tilt her head slightly to expose her neck while listening, or lower the overall volume of her voice so that you naturally have to lean in closer to hear her. These micro-behaviors are delicate signals of receptivity designed to see if you possess the awareness to read the room correctly. A common mistake men make when they notice these signals is reacting with sudden, overly eager enthusiasm. The moment they spot a microsignal, they break their grounded composure, blurt out their feelings, or jump to escalate the physical interaction far too quickly. This sudden shift in your energy instantly shatters the smooth, controlled dynamic you spent time establishing, making the interaction feel rushed and transactional. One single cue in isolation might just be a casual habit, but when multiple microsignals align over the course of a single evening, the underlying pattern becomes absolute. Understanding this hidden language changes everything about how you navigate romantic encounters. You no longer have to guess where you stand or force moments to happen through artificial routines. Instead, you simply remain present, keeping your internal state grounded while observing how she responds to the atmosphere you have created around both of you. Recognizing her green lights is critical, but execution requires seamlessly integrating these steps without breaking frame. Real mastery never looks like a strategy. It looks like second nature. Integrating frame, emotional tension, and signal awareness into your life is not about executing a rigid sequence of steps during a night out. It is about adopting an underlying posture of quiet self-assurance that carries through every single social interaction you have. When you no longer seek validation from the outcome of a conversation, you operate with an effortless authority that women find deeply attractive and rare in today's world. Psychological integration happens when your internal standard matches your external behavior so completely that doubt no longer interferes with your actions. When a moment calls for you to lead the conversation or take a step forward, you act smoothly without looking for reassurance or hesitating out of fear of rejection. Women notice this seamless execution instantly because it proves that your confidence is genuine, stable, and built on a firm foundation rather than put on for show. This effortless alignment is what commands true respect. Of course, you will still experience moments where an interaction feels uncertain or where her response is not immediately clear. You might ask yourself if you misread a signal or missed an opportunity to move the interaction forward smoothly. When those moments happen, a high-value man does not lose his composure or try to fix the situation frantically. He simply steps back into his established frame, remains comfortable with the pause, and lets the interaction breathe naturally once again. When you master these 3 steps, one final question remains. How do you maintain this attraction when she tests you? Attraction is not a static score you achieve once. It is a living dynamic that naturally evolves as 2 people get closer. When you establish your internal frame, manage emotional tension masterfully, and read her microsignals with quiet precision, you move entirely out of the realm of common guesswork. Seduction ceases to be an exhausting performance where you have to prove your worth, becoming instead a natural response to the calm, masculine presence you bring into the room. You gain the clarity to observe what is actually happening in front of you, allowing you to act with absolute confidence when the moment presents itself. You do not need to overanalyze every single detail or double guess your instincts anymore. When your internal state is truly settled, your actions naturally follow with balance, direction, and quiet authority. Which of these 3 psychological steps do you find hardest to maintain when talking to a woman you are genuinely attracted to? Share your thoughts in the comments below as I read through them to help shape our upcoming discussions. If you found this breakdown valuable, subscribe to the channel so you never miss our deep dives into the hidden mechanics of female psychology and attraction. Next week, I'm revealing the 3 silent tests every high-value woman uses to check if your confidence is real and exactly how to pass them.